This evening. New reporting tonight about what the Obama administration learned in its final days about Russian interference in the presidential election and the remarkable steps it took to protect the evidence from the incoming administration. This piece, again, just out in the last hour, the New York Times reporting that as the Obama administration learned more about these possible contacts between Russia and close associates of Donald Trump during the campaign, the White House tried to spread the information it was gathering to as many government agencies as possible, in part to prevent the incoming Trump administration from finding, covering up, or destroying the evidence. Joining us now, one of the reporters who broke the story tonight. It's a triple byline piece in the Times. Matthew Rosenberg is with us. Matthew, to start with, how does an administration go about spreading out and squirreling away evidence they fear could get lost with the change of government?
Well, it does a few different things. You know, you have to remember a lot of the intel elements is coming in really late. They're recognizing November, December, January, this kind of scope of this Russian campaign, and the suspicions about contacts, what these contacts between the Trump associates and Russians were. And so they're rushing to kind of take all this raw intelligence, put it into finished analyses, finished reports, and then kind of do those reports at the lowest level of classification that they could possibly do so that as many people in the government could read it. And the idea there was that, you know, you don't want to be in a situation where only so many people know it. It's much easier to contain that information. So you spread it out. And then you take that raw intel and you take the most sensitive information, the sources' names, the human intelligence names, and you put that into the deepest compartments you can find, into places where only people with intelligence clearances are going to get to it. You're not going to get political appointees looking at it, things like that. And I think that was kind of the bigger idea here, that you wanted to get this out there, and you wanted to then leave a bit of a trail of breadcrumbs, such as it is, for investigators, especially congressional investigators. One of the ways you could do that, and we were told people did, is every day there are intelligence briefings that go on. You ask for brief for specific questions. They have to come back with written answers. Those written answers are archived, and any, say, Senate investigator would know to go look at them.
Your headline is grabbing enough, and it came in as a New York Times alert on a lot of people's devices tonight. Obama administration rushed to preserve intelligence of Russian election hacking. But it's your second graph that reads so stone cold that you realize this has to be seen as at least a potential threat to this administration. American allies, including the British and the Dutch, have provided information describing meetings in European cities between Russian officials and others close to Russia's President Vladimir Putin and associates of President-elect Trump, according to 3 former American officials who requested anonymity in discussing classified intelligence. Separately, American intelligence agencies had intercepted communications of Russian officials, some of them within the Kremlin, discussing contacts with Mr. Trump's associates. It goes on from there. What happens now? Knowing about the bulk of what's there to be discovered, what is already known to some people with security clearances, how does this affect the ongoing investigations?
Look, I want to be fair to the people who were having these meetings. That what was going on in those meetings is still remarkably unclear, and nobody knows for sure. Those conversations, we're talking about these contacts, but what exactly they were doing with them still is not clear. And even who exactly, what the Trump people knew. Some of these Trump people were business people meeting with other business people. Unfortunately, in Russia, there are very blurry lines between who's in business, who's in intelligence. But I think the bigger point here is there are questions that need to be answered. And this is going to push for more of those answers. Because right now, the never happened, didn't see it, don't know anything about it, that just isn't lining up with what a lot of other people are telling us.
Matthew Rosenberg, one of 3 authors of tonight's breaking news in the New York Times. Matthew, along with Adam Goldman, Michael Schmidt in Washington, thank you so very much for finding time to be with us at the top of our broadcast tonight. Again, the piece is on the New York Times website.